All right, guys, today we're going to be talking about Richard Joseph Lonergan, the third and final leader of the White Hand Gang before they basically went extinct and disappeared and met their end as an organization. Now, Richard Pegleg Lonergan was born January 16, 1900 in Brooklyn, New York City. He was of Irish descent. Family was deeply rooted in the South Brooklyn waterfront. His father, John Lonergan, was a small-time criminal and a bike shop owner at 132 York Street, known for running numbers and petty thefts along the docks. Just like everyone during that time. Richard grew up in a cramped tenement at 155 Prospect Street. The building no longer exists, and the neighborhood is a far cry from what it used to be. It is one of the most expensive neighborhoods in New York City at this moment. But Pegleg experienced the total opposite if you were to go there now. The household, just like a lot of young Irish growing up in cramped, dirty New York City back then, a lot of strife, drama, poverty, domestic violence, his parents, volatile marriage. His mother was not a pushover. Anna Lonergan was known for her fiery temper, and she had no problem getting violent as well. And his father, John, who was a petty criminal, was out being a rolling stone, dibbing and dabbling with other women, and that really just made for constant clashes, which obviously would not have a positive influence on the young Lonergan clan members. He was the eldest of several siblings. He had a brother, John Jr., Anna, and some others. They grew up mostly around Red Hook, Gowanus, and the Brooklyn Bridge area, where Irish dock workers were plentiful, and so was crime. By his teen years, he was already well known for running errands for older White Hand Gang members like Wild Bill Lovett that we spoke about before, and Denny Meehan. He idolized them, just like a lot of young kids idolize the dope boys today. It was really no different. They controlled that whole area with an iron fist, shaking down wagons, extortions, protection, the usual. Now, this is where his nickname, unfortunately, was born. Around the age of 12, him and his young comrades were out being wild, horse playing, and he fell under the wheels of a brewery wagon loaded with beer barrels, crushing his right leg below the knee, and it had to be amputated. Hence, the peg leg was attached and his new nickname was born. But like with most things that happen in your life, they can either make you or break you. And this just made him tougher. At the age of 15 are the earliest signs of him being arrested and getting in trouble with the law. Him and his gang got caught stealing copper wire from the Navy Yard. Later on, when he was 17, at 452 Warren Street, he actually used his peg leg to break a rival kid's arm in a dispute over protection money, over dice games, and served 30 days. Back then, the sentences were far lighter for violent crimes, believe it or not. Another incident in October of 1919, him and two of his cousins roughed up a group of Italian kids that were also in their own youth gang, basically, because back then ethnic lines were drawn and heavily enforced. There wasn't this "I'm white" narrative. Everyone stuck with their own. Italians and Jews and Irish and black and English, they looked at themselves as their own set of people. By the time he got into his 20s, he graduated from petty crime into a full-fledged White Hand Gang member. He was in the thick of it, getting into brawls and shootouts with Black Hand Gang members. A lot of infighting because, unfortunately for the White Hand Gang, the Irish stereotype of being heavy drinkers did not evade them, and it did not help their cause. They lacked organizational skills because of this, and they were quick to fight each other over small verbal slights. Now, in 1923, Wild Bill Lovett, who we spoke about in a previous video, was wiped off the map on Halloween night, passing on November 1st. Or at least that's when they found him. He became the de facto leader. And to be quite honest, he didn't really accomplish much as far as gaining new power or territory as the leader of the White Hand Gang. He was really just a wild guy, getting drunk, getting into shootouts, while the Italians were far more cunning, organized, and driven to expand their operation. Now, Wild Bill Lovett ended up being taken off the map on Halloween, so Pegleg ended up losing his life Christmas night into the morning of the 26th. At around 3 a.m., he enters the Adonis Social Club located at 154 20th Street in Brooklyn, Park Slope, 20th Street and 5th Avenue, a 5-minute walk from the house I grew up in, with 5 of his friends: James Hart, Neil Needles Ferry, Aaron Harms, Joseph Howard, Patrick Happy Maloney. And they were loud, rambunctious, carrying on as you would expect loud, drunk gang members to behave. They were arguing with each other about Pegleg's brother, according to witnesses, about him being able to take on the whole gang with one hand. And witnesses later would claim that a rival gang, no one gave official statements, but heavily implied to be Italian and associated with Al Capone. And suddenly the lights went out and shooting began. 7 shots were fired, and just like that, Richard Pegleg Lonergan lost his life. Didn't stand a chance. He was on the dance floor, toothpick still in his mouth, a fully loaded revolver in his vest pocket with his hand near the grip. Needles Ferry and Aaron Harms were also killed. James Hart was wounded in the thigh and ear. Needles Ferry's body was actually dragged and left in the gutter right in front of the club for everyone to see. Now, there were 7 guys that were actually rounded up and they were released and charges were dropped. Anthony Desso was a bartender. Jack Stabile was the owner. Alphonse Capone was the doorman. Sylvester Agoglia, Joe Howard, and James Hart. A lot of people say Al Capone was one of the triggermen, but charges were dropped and witnesses wouldn't give official statements. But that's kind of the consensus of who did it. Pegleg was buried shortly after. He had a funeral procession on Myrtle Avenue with a huge turnout. And that was basically the end of Pegleg and the White Hand Gang.